Hello and welcome to our live session today on maximizing community benefits through social innovation and responsible volunteer travel. We're thrilled to partner with Wild Asia and to be part of the Wild Asia Responsible Travel Initiative. My name is Ayako Ezaki. I'm going to be moderating and co-facilitating this session today. And as you see on the screen right now, we're joined today by three responsible travel leaders. Amy, joining us today from Cambodia, who, among a few other things, who's leading Wild Asia Responsible Tourism Awards program, and Claire in Nepal, who will be sharing with us her insights based on her work with Pippi Tourist, and then Gopi in India, who will share his stories and lessons learned from his responsible tourism company, the Blue Yonder. But before we hear from Claire and Gopi about social innovation and responsible travel, let's first learn more about Wild Asia and its responsible tourism program. So Amy, can you tell us first more about you and also about the Wild Asia Responsible Tourism Awards and what you're working on this year?
Sure. You can hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm originally from the UK, and I've now been based in Asia for the last 5 years, 4 of which I'm proud to have been managing the Wild Asia Responsible Tourism Awards. Wild Asia is a social enterprise based out of Malaysia and operating regionally around South and Southeast Asia, helping different industries and businesses meet and exceed global standards for sustainability. And one of the industries we look at, as you can guess, is tourism. The mission of the Responsible Tourism Awards has been to identify and communicate best practice from different leaders around the region by giving them recognition through our awards. And in 2016, we're delighted to be celebrating our 10th birthday. And so thank you to Ayako and the team at Training Aid, because some of these webinars we're bringing you as part of the celebrations for a decade of the Responsible Tourism Awards. So through the Responsible Tourism Awards, we have identified a whole range of businesses and initiatives from around the region. Here you can see some of us celebrating at different events. So normally we provide recognition at ITB Asia in Singapore every October. Last year we actually moved the event temporarily to the Patha Travel Mart in India. So here's some of our leaders that we've recognized over the recent years. And so for today's speakers, there are 2 very key people from the Wild Asia Awards family. Gopi has been working with me for the past few years. He has been a crucial judge in the awards process. He's also one of our partners for celebrating the Responsible Tourism networking events that we coordinate together at ITB Asia every year, and of course runs a very well-known and fantastic responsible tourism business himself. And Claire is joining us from Pippi Tours. Pippi Tours were recognized in our awards in 2010. Coincidentally, I actually went on to become part of the Pippi Tours family outside of my role with Wild Asia, so we know each other very well. And I, in the past 18 months, have recently set up my own small responsible travel business, so I might be able to join some of the discussion today. And Ayana Journeys, my business, is actually the ground operator for Pippi Tours. So it's a very small community we have joining us here today, and we're all interlinked in different ways, which is one of the reasons I love working in this field. And I'm very excited for today's topic because community benefits through tourism is particularly my area of passion, and why I work in travel. So yes, excited for everyone to have joined us, and hope we can get some engagement on the chat room. Yes, let's fire away.
Great. Thanks so much, Amy. As you mentioned, we're really excited to cover this topic and to be able to offer the opportunity not just for us to learn, but also to share stories and lessons from responsible tourism leaders, and really those of you guys like Amy, Claire, and Gopi with many years of experience running and leading responsible tourism companies. So with that, our first presentation segment is with Claire, who's going to tell us more about Pippi Tourist, who has been part of, as Amy mentioned, the Wild Asia Responsible Tourism Award as a finalist last year. And so including that, I think Pippi has achieved many great things in responsible tourism, not just recognition, but also in terms of impact and of course business success. And we're here to learn all about that from Claire.
Oh, thanks, Ayako. Nice introduction.
Yeah. So that's so one of the things that we really wanted to ask you and start out with is really tell us more about Pippi and really focusing on the responsible tourism experience that you provide, and focusing on being adventurous, educational, and responsible. And how does that happen? How do you make it possible to combine those elements of the travel experiences?
Sure. Okay. Well, I'll give it a go. So first of all, just a little bit of background about Pippi Tours. So Pippi Tours is an educational travel company that operates in Cambodia and Nepal. And we're a social enterprise that we really aim to have a positive impact in the world, and that's through two really broad ways. The first one is supporting responsible travel practices and community-based initiatives and social projects in the countries that we travel in. So we meet and learn from and financially support different projects and programs in the areas. And secondly, we do this by enabling participants to understand their own roles as global citizens and to feel empowered to make long-term change in the world. So going on to the prompts of adventurous, educational, and responsible. So adventurous. The places that Pippi Tours travel in are ones that are not on general tourist itineraries. So we don't just go to Cambodia just to visit Angkor Wat. We don't just go to Nepal just to trek in the mountains, although those are two important experiences that we put in there too. On most of the trips that we go to, we also go into remote and rural areas and experience homestays, for example, and really try and enable travellers to have a more immersive experience and to really try and understand how people live in a country. So it's a style of travel that it doesn't just aim to cater to tourists and to make them comfortable. In lots of ways, it aims to push travellers outside of their comfort zones and to challenge them both physically and in their ways of looking at the world. So we really strive to make it an adventure in that way. So educationally, our programs have distinct learning goals, and every experience that we run has a unique talk curriculum for every trip. So usually the programs that we run are for groups, for schools or universities, and they travel around the country learning about development issues or visiting organisations that are trying to make change in their communities and meeting local activists. So not only do we visit these organisations and learn from them very experientially, we also come back, and as a group we spend a lot of time debating and discussing our own thoughts and our reactions, reading articles, and really thinking with participants about what all of our roles should be in the process of global change. So then, responsible. We're responsible because we strive to minimise the negative impacts of the tourist industry. and instead try to invest in positive outcomes for the places in which we travel. So all of the people and the organisations that we visit and that we talk to receive donations from us. So we try as much as possible to support practices and programs that we see as really good. And then also we try and make responsible choices in the services that we use as travellers. So we support community-based tourism initiatives. We use hotels and restaurants that are social enterprises, and we support small and locally owned businesses to try and put money back into the economies, the local economies of the areas that we go to.
Great, thanks so much for the detailed explanation, Claire. Is this am I correct? Is your own sort of focus educational experiences? Is that sort of what you mainly work on at Pippi?
Absolutely, yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
So, speaking of learning, and this was one of the things that that really stuck with me as I was, reading about Pippi Tourist background with the award and other program areas, and I think that this is an excellent quote that really has a strong message about responsible tourism in general. We must learn before we can help, and I did find this through Pippi's website. So I think on this, about the educational experience, learning opportunities for travelers and locals that you work with. Tell us more about this. What does it mean, and what's this philosophy all about?
Yeah, this is one of the key parts of the Pippi Tours travel philosophy, learning before helping. So one of the many goals of Pippi Tours is to try to provide a response to, and I guess an alternative for, this growing trend of voluntourism. So we recognise that there are many people out there that don't just want to travel when they go somewhere. They also want to learn about how to change the world. And initially, in the history of Pippi Tours, the first way that we thought to do that was to start out catering to that desire by providing volunteering opportunities. But as we learned more about the huge issues that we were facing, aid effectiveness and the complexity of development, we kind of realised that we were shortchanging everyone by doing that. So we were providing development solutions that were kind of ineffective because short-term volunteers that hadn't been to the country before really weren't providing the kind of sustainable change that was needed. And then we also felt like we were mis-selling short-term volunteer trips to participants as a way that they can change the world, when the reality is that change is a much more complicated process than that. So we realised that the value of a trip to Cambodia or Nepal is not about what you can give or your contribution in the short time that you spend there, but is actually more about what you can learn during that time and how that can influence you and your capacity to make a long-term change, and not just limiting it to a change overseas or a change somewhere else, but a change in your own life or in your own lifestyles or your own communities, or even in the bigger picture of learning about global problems as well. So coming back to this, we need to learn before we can help. We say a lot of volunteer providers are saying, okay, come to the country for just a short time, for the first time usually, and here's what the problem is and here's what the solution is. Here's what your role can be in solving it. But at Pippi Tours, we kind of say, these are really, really huge problems, and instead of trying to solve them while you're on vacation, if you're really committed to doing this, come and learn with us first and spend the rest of your life working towards positive change, or like look towards the future and see how you can grow your own capacity to do that.
Great. I think the this is a theme that all of us today on this session are really passionate about, and it's really great to hear sort of the insider perspective on how you know, you've transformed and how what you've done at Pippi, and this is one of the things that I really appreciate about your you know, sort of openness to share the learning process that Pippi Tours itself went through. And we wanted to, like, on this topic, I think that this is a really good segue to this video that I wanted to share. I thought it was a really good way of demonstrating what Claire just told us about in terms of the process of Pippi Tourist development, and some of the lessons about learning and helping. So this would be just like a short video, and I will play this, and then Claire, you can share more about this topic after the video.
Great, sure.
We wanted to improve education in Cambodia, but we soon learned that schools don't teach kids, people do. Sounds obvious now, right? Building schools and giving things away just wasn't the answer. To improve the quality of education, we needed to start investing time in people. So Pippi changed from protect the earth, protect yourself, to promoting education, empowering youth, though we still love the environment too. To help support this work and connect supporters to the projects they were funding, Pippi began running short-term volunteer adventures in Cambodia, as well as the annual cross-Cambodia cycling trip, the Pippi Ride. As Pippi continued to grow, things started to get a little confusing. Were we an NGO, or were we a tour operator? The answer, of course, was both. So to make things a little clearer, mostly for ourselves, Pippi divided into two: Pippi NGO and Pippi Tours, the social enterprise. Two organizations, but one big Pippi family. Pippi NGO continues to work on youth leadership and education programs with rural communities, and Pippi Tours continues to support these projects financially. However, things at Pippi Tours have changed a lot over the years. We used to think the best way we could help was by allowing participants to give back on their travels. But we realized that it was we who must learn before we can help. We had been sending a message and a precedent that one could sweep in and help in a culture that was not our own, with problems we had to find ourselves. This is not the message we wanted to be spreading amongst enthusiastic travelers. So we changed our focus from short-term volunteering to long-term learning. Today, we connect motivated individuals with innovative ideas, encourage participants to realize their ability to make the changes they want to see in their lives, their communities, and the world, and equip them with the skills, resources, and inspiration they need to do so. We can all be the change we want to see in the world. As we are looking toward the future, we are continuing to dream big. We dream of a world where everyone is working towards personal and global development, and where travel offers two-way learning and a lot of fun. Our mission is to inspire young people, lifelong learners, students, teachers, and adventurers of all ages to improve the way we all give, travel, and live far into the future, all while exploring this beautiful country. Join us.
Great video. Yeah, and I think that summarizes really the message and lessons really well, and I was really happy to find this, and really wanted to share this as part of a presentation today. And the video mentioned you know, what Pippi really stands for, and in terms of what Pippi Tours does, and as well as the acronym. So tell us more about the P and the E of promoting education through responsible tourism.
Sure. So as you saw from that video, Pippi Tours has a sister organisation that is based in Cambodia, that all started with a school building. In fact, Pippi Tours and Pippi the organisation, everything started with building one school out in rural Cambodia. And since then, the organisation has grown and shifted emphasis towards enabling students from that school and in the local area to access good quality education. So one branch of what is happening in Cambodia is that there is an educational NGO that is being supported. So as you saw in the video previously, Pippi Tours was providing support to this program in the form of short-term volunteers. But now we've grown into more of a learning organisation, but still support the projects in Cambodia by offering financial support. So all of the people that come on the trips have a fundraising donation as well that goes straight into those educational projects. And it supports teachers and trainers and scholarship programs and exchange opportunities for the students. So in that way, we're promoting education within the countries that we work in. And on the other side, as I was talking about before, the key aim of all of the trips that we provide is education for the travellers. So we aim for trip participants to return from their journeys with new outlooks on life and new goals, and maybe different ways in which they can engage in the future in making a difference in the world. Mm-hmm. So I was just going to give an example of last year. A trip that we ran was for development studies department at an Australian university. And we had students coming out of that trip saying, like, wow, I've learned more about how development actually works in 4 weeks on this trip than in my entire degree beforehand. So, you know, we're really proud of how these kind of experiential experiences really do provide a different kind of education.
Great. And is so Pippi started in Cambodia with the initial project, and then and also started working in Nepal. Is that correct? Where you are?
That's right. Yeah. So Pippi Tours has had a big base in Cambodia for a long time, and our Nepal programs are fairly new. I've been involved with Pippi Tours for it must be coming on for 6 years now. But being based in Nepal and my contacts and expertise in Nepal, it made so much sense to kind of bring these sort of experiences to Nepal as well. So it's much more fledgling and was very affected by the earthquake last year. But actually, there's also a lot of educational opportunities in that as well. So one of the itineraries that we're putting together is about how to understand the relief response and, you know, what worked and what didn't work after such a devastating, you know, tragedy that happens in one place. You know, how can we support effectively? Okay.
And is that the same sort of kind of partnership that you have in Nepal through a local organization where travelers can contribute to financially?
Absolutely, yeah. So the way that our programs work is that in Cambodia we have Ayana Journeys that Amy is the founder of, that is like the operator for the tours, that partners with Pippi, the NGO, and loads of other social projects that we visit on our tours as well. And in Nepal it's a really similar structure. So we have Nimana Nepal, which is a company that's based in Nepal. That is the tour operator, and it's partnered with an organisation called Phase Nepal that works on rural development in Nepal. And fundraising contributions pre-trip go towards our sister organisations, and then during the trips as well, a lot of the fee that is paid for the trip also goes towards compensating all the people that we learn from as we travel.
Okay. And just a quick follow-up question, because I'm really interested.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
How are the responses from travelers? How engaged are them in fundraising and financial contributions to local organizations?
Yeah, I think the travelers that we attract to our model really appreciate this. As I said before, we sort of have tried to offer this as an alternative for volunteering. And we get a lot of people that have said, I really want to be able to do something that will really support local initiatives on the ground. And in the time that I have available, I'm not sure I can really offer something that valuable to an organisation. So what we sort of turn it around and say, actually, how about they offer you something, because they've been working in this for a long time, and they're all working towards their own solutions. And what you can offer back is some financial support. And so everything is included in the trip fee. So we set pretty reasonably priced trips, but instead of spending a lot of extra money on like tourist attractions or really comfortable 5-star hotels, we actually put a lot of that money into the places that we go to, and the feedback is tremendous from the people that choose to come on our trips that are already really invested in making a change. I think they find it really fulfilling.
Great, that's really great to hear, and also I think that the key is your messaging and your promoting this type of experience, and I think that the people really appreciate it, and it's great to hear that the travelers do appreciate and get engaged, and that's the important part. And yeah, we also wanted to ask the other part of what Pippi stands for, of empowering youth. Tell us more about what you do, and sort of particularly in this area.
Yeah, so again, it's exactly the same as having this dual approach. So on one side, there's Pippi, the NGO based in Cambodia, which has a key goal of empowering young people, especially from rural backgrounds, to get an education and then to help bridge them into getting a job. And then similarly, on the other side, the participants on Pippi Tours are usually young people. We generally work with people that are still in education. We do have adults as well, but our main focus is on school and university groups. And it's usually people that are extremely passionate about changing the world. So we really see the trips as providing a platform from which the participants can do that, not in the 2 weeks or however long they have to spend on a trip, but really in long-term sustainable ways that recognize the complexities of the problems and the commitment that it takes to genuinely help solve them.
Yeah, and I see the impact of sort of an experience like that at an early age, and when you're a student and traveling, and maybe you're not, I think maybe sort of you have a simple mindset, I want to change the world, and I think that the message of sort of this is something that you commit to in terms of your lifestyle, in terms of how you live your life, and it's not just those days when you're in Nepal or in Cambodia, and I think that's a really important message, and especially I think for younger people who are maybe new to development or international travel, and I can see that impact, and I think that it would have been really great to have something like that when I was a student.
Yeah,
so yeah,
I absolutely agree with you. I feel like Pippi Tours have made all these mistakes, and I have personally made a ton of mistakes as well. And what we're trying to do is minimize people having to go through that again in order to learn these lessons.
Right, sharing the lessons. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Great. And yeah, speaking of sharing lessons, so this was one of the things that I think that you've shared with us sort of the great unique models and approaches that you guys have at Pippi Tours, and what you do in terms of making a positive impact in local communities. But on the other hand, what's sort of what have you learned in terms of developing and growing your business and Pippi Tours as a social enterprise? What are some of the things that you can share with others maybe who are interested in starting one, maybe a responsible tourism business, or are engaged in this field?
Okay, so I've actually crystallized this down into 3 lessons, but they're quick.
Wow.
So the first one is you have to learn before you can help. I know this sounds familiar and it's what we've talked about, but it exactly applies to growing a social enterprise as well. we can't go into unfamiliar places with a nice business model that's already fully formed, looking for a silver bullet to try and solve social issues in a country. I think something that we've learned through Pippi Tours is that there are no quick fixes in this field at all. And this relates to the second lesson, which is that you're not in this alone. There are so many social initiatives doing great work all over the world, and we can sometimes mistakenly see them as competitors, but I think if it's a true social enterprise, they're not competitors, they're actually your friends. And so one of the key lessons that we've learned is support them and promote their work, use their services, and sort of put your money where your social mission is, because lots of tiny impacts can really add up, and the more friends you have and the more people that you're promoting, they'll do that back to you as well, and all achieving this bigger social change that we're all looking for. And then the third one is that as a social enterprise, I think it's on us to shape demand. I think to be really cutting edge, we can't just respond to a demand that's already there. I think Pippi Tours could have been a really successful voluntourism provider if we'd wanted to go down that route. We probably could have made quite a lot of money out of it. We probably could have kept lots of people happy. But we moved away from that when we realised that it wasn't having the social impact that we wanted to have. So if we really want to promote sustainable solutions, then our lesson is that we really need to educate our donor base, our clients, and create a demand for what we feel is needed in the world and for what we're selling. So yeah, they're the three lessons that I came up with when thinking about this.
Great, thank you so much for summarizing the lessons. I know this was a big question and with possibly sort of hours and hours that we could discuss. But thank you again so much, Claire, for sharing your stories and lessons, and hopefully we'll have some more time at the end also to have some Q&A with you as well. But at this point, yeah, thanks so much. At this point, I will hand over the screen to Amy and Gopi, who is going to lead the next segment, an interview presentation with Gopi. Amy, so you should have now, sorry, I should stop you should have now the presentation mode, if you can start the slides.
I have my slides open. Can you see them?
Not coming up yet.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, it's there.
I can see them.
Okay, sorry. So it's me.
Okay, you can see the Mandarin pottery. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So as I mentioned before, I'm so happy that Gopi can join us here. He has been working with Wild Asia Responsible Tourism Awards for many years now, and before that has gained repetition as probably one of the top leaders in the world for responsible tourism, and is pioneering responsible tourism networks globally. His day job is running the Blue Yonder, which has been working now for 12 years, Gopi? Mostly in India, but also with other destination partners in other parts of the world as well. And they are mostly a cultural and responsible tour operator, and I'm happy that Gopi's here today to share some insight into the kinds of experiences they offer and how that's benefiting the local community. So Gopi, if I haven't already said enough, would you like to just give us a quick overview about the Blue Yonder?
Oh, sure. Blue Yonder is one of the probably the few tour operators who are actually scared of tourism. So we focus quite a lot on development of the destination, but always try to find a balance between tourism and the development, in the sense that the communities that we work with also do have an opportunity to say no to tourism if they don't want to engage. So we started as a small not-for-profit 12 years ago as part of a river conservation work in Kerala, in south of India. But then later we realized that the not-for-profit mode is not what we should pursue, and we became a for-profit under the name of the Blue Yonder. Yeah, so it's been 12 years now.
Amazing. And following the global definition of responsible tourism, the Blue Yonder uses it as your own strapline, and that is creating better places for people to live and for people to visit. So could you tell us a bit more about how this is such an important part of the Blue Yonder's vision and values?
Yeah, so for us, tourism is not everything. Tourism is actually one of the many verticals through which we try to have a holistic approach towards sustainable development in any destination. So just to give an idea, like how we look at initiatives that we want to promote or initiatives that we are involved in co-creating with the local communities, we don't always look at necessarily the tourism potential of the location or the initiative. What we look at is what is it that us as a travel company or us as a social enterprise can do in terms of bringing up the quality of life of the local people and the places. And based on that, we create initiatives, projects. It might be about increasing livelihood options for people. It might be about preserving certain cultural initiatives in the area. It might be about conserving the heritage. And then in the first 1 or 2 years, you don't even see as a traveler. The focus is about bringing in that dignity, respect for the local community in initiatives that they stand for. And then over a period of time, mostly to ensure that we have more ambassadors as well as to ensure that there is a stream of income or revenue coming into the community, that we look at tourism. And as I said, in the tourism, like, especially in terms of how it is defined, like we really believe that the focus of responsible tourism has to be about how do you create better places for people to live. So that is why we always, a lot of people get confused. They ask us, are you a development organization? So I always say, yes, we are a development organization, but we also look at tourism as one of the tools through which we could actually give better opportunities for people. But in the meanwhile, we always make sure that whatever tourism initiative that we launch are not sole dependency for the people. In terms of crisis comes, a disaster happens, or a riot happens in destination, it will totally throw people out of gear. So we make sure that there is always local consumption for the initiatives that we launch, including various tourism initiatives. It's not totally dependent on tourism coming from elsewhere as well. Does that answer your question?
Really good. Do you have a specific example you could share with us? A specific initiative or that you have launched that you have seen is both a really valuable, unique tourist experience that's enriching for visitors, but also is genuinely creating a better place for the local communities as well?
More than 100 initiatives, I can say, in 12 years. But I'll just explain something that happened in 2012. There is this one very rare variety of rice in our state called Pokali. So this is probably the only climate change resistant rice that can grow in saline water. Probably it's also a climate change resistant food that is, because we have been looking for it and we haven't really come across many that can grow in saline water. And 10 years ago, we used to have about 27,000 hectares of land under Pokali farming. And say in 2012, when we started talking to local farmers, came to know that not even 2,400 hectares are being utilized. So one of the main reasons was that it has only one yield in a year, and the farmers are not getting enough returns for whatever money they put in, whatever effort they put in. And then we also checked out and realized that the government is actually giving a subsidy for the farmers, which is not even enough to meet their basic expenses. So we started working with some of the local cooperative banks and then some of the local panchayats, which is the lowest denomination of governance in our state. And then we decided that we will support few thousand kilograms of production. And then the deal that we had with the local farmers were that whatever they produce, we will buy it at a much higher rate than what the government is offering. Just to give you an idea, the government was giving them about 19 rupees a kilogram, and then we offered about 43 rupees a kg. At the same time, we also said that we will sell this further to hotels and resorts and restaurants who are looking for unique food products and stories that they can tell, they can serve, they can share with their own guests, which we were selling at about 110 rupees a kg. So from 19 rupees a kg, we were selling at 110 kg. And when I say when we sell, we were only facilitators. We don't touch the money. We just connect these people to respective buyers. So now the result is that over a period of 3 years, the total production is about 65 tons of rice coming from 3 small villages in Kerala. And now if you look at how this is linked to tourism, one is the hoteliers and the restaurant owners, they are purchasing these rice. Second thing is, once this rice is sold, for next 6 months, people for another source of income. And we link with the tourism agents and visit these farmers, have an interaction with them, and some of the farmers even charge from $50 to $80 for 3 hours of the visit to the farm. So it's a win-win situation for the farmers. They make money out of selling the rice. They get a minimum guarantee price from us, actually much higher than the market price. Then the hoteliers, they get to tell a beautiful story because they are serving a beautiful red color rice which grows up to 1.5 meter tall, which is probably the only climate change resistant food. And then the same hotelier probably also gets a couple of extra nights from the guests because they want to stay back and enjoy and see the farms where these beautiful rice, the paddy field are there in the neighborhood. And then as a tour operator, whatever money we have invested in the community can be recouped as well as made into a profit the moment guests start visiting all these places. So this is the kind of model in which we function. We identify a problem, then we work around it, and then over a period of time, 1 to 2 years, we create a travel experience out of it. But at the same time, many of these initiatives are sustainable even without tourism. And I think that is the beauty of what we have been involved. Because last year, we could not give even 1 kilogram of rice to hoteliers and restaurants because it was all locally consumed.
Yeah, that's really brilliant. And like you mentioned, that's that I have long, how you find these really unique stories and you turn it into, you realize it as a story for all involved, which is really good. And thank you for sharing that example. And so maybe linked a little bit to this, you do promote the Blue Yonder as a cultural tour provider, and so linked to culture, of course, is heritage. And we'd love to hear from you some examples, or maybe one example, of how you believe that responsible tourism, maybe through your own operations, can help revive and preserve local heritage.
Sure. Just to give you an idea, like every year, Blue Yonder gives out anything between $5,000 to $7,000 US dollars worth fellowships, grants, scholarships, and some years lifetime achievement awards to artisans or social entrepreneurs who are literally creating better places for people to live. And in many cases, these are very unique artists or artisans who are probably the last remaining one, or maybe they are part of the only remaining family who know how to practice certain art forms. So every year we give out this much amount of 5 artisans. Now, just to give you an idea, this year we are doing the same thing for 5 artisans. So one is a person, he's very young, 34-year-old man, who creates a very unique bell metal craft. This was used as a mirror even before the Egyptians had mirror. And unfortunately, there's only just 2 families in this entire state who knows how to practice this. And one of the boys, he's from our project location. So another one is there is one person, a person called Kodavil Ramankuti, who is the only remaining carpenter who knows how to craft all the accessories of our, most of our performing art forms. So he's about 65 years old, and he lives on very basic wages, irrespective of the fact that he's the only person. So we support such people with fellowships, and then another 2 people are again the only person remaining who knows how to do glove puppetry. These are people who came from other part of India, settled down on the banks of this river. But once this generation passes away, this entire tradition is going to die. So they don't have younger generation who are interested in it. So we are giving out these awards with all kind of fanfare to make it look very sexy and cool and give them a lot of dignity and respect. Another one is a shadow puppetry tradition. There are again only 2 families in this entire state who are pursuing this, irrespective of the fact that there are more than 85 temples where such puppetry performances are going on as a ritual. So we have included all these people along with another musician, very young musician, who is training more than 800 young students, girls and boys, people from all caste and creed, no gender bias, everything. He's opened up his school, and he's running now 21 schools, a young musician called Santosh, and so he is also part of the fellowship. Now, the reason I'm mentioning this is whenever our traveler goes in, they are going to spend a lot of time, 1 hour, maybe 3 hours, sometimes half a day with these musicians and artists. And it's an amazing experience for the traveler, because these people who are working with us are already on a fellowship where they are paid really well. Plus, every time our traveler goes and visit them, they are paid, which is far higher than anything that any other tour operator gives probably in the entire country. So what we are trying to do is to celebrate their time, celebrate their crafts, celebrate the uniqueness of the areas that they work with, and at the same time link it with something like a responsible tourism, where they know that there are discerning travelers who are coming all the way from different parts of the world to know more about their own heritage, and how they are becoming part of reviving and preserving that heritage.
Amazing. And those grants that you're giving out, are they contributions from guests directly, or is that as a company it's taken from your profits, for example?
As a policy, we don't take any money from us other than for tourism purposes.
Mm-hmm.
We don't take any donation because we are also a for-profit organization.
Sure.
So the money that is given as grant is purely from the company, and by end of the day, that was the reason why we set up the company. So we don't need to run after anyone looking for money to pursue our dreams.
Okay. And could you talk to us a little bit more about how you're engaging with the local communities? You mentioned you have over 100 initiatives, but I can think of one in particular from your hometown, I believe, and that's the Compassionate Cozy Credit. Could you share?
Sure. Yeah. So this is a sort of a similar story of Pippi Tourist. Just to give you an idea, say, about this empowering local communities, it's not really an initiative of the Blue Yonder, but it's something, an initiative supported by the Blue Yonder. So in the northern districts of Kozhikode in Kerala, there is a beautiful initiative called Compassionate Kozhikode, which is groundbreaking concept of destination development, and it has nothing to do with tourism whatsoever. So there the whole idea is that the administration is providing a platform for the local community, people from the civil society, corporates, not-for-profits, even the government to come together on one platform with the value of compassion. So any decisions are taken based on the value of compassion. People stand by each other based on the value of compassion. And this entire initiative was all inspired by something called, say, in 23 years ago, in Kerala was a leader in community-based palliative care. So this is a network of more than 1,400 home care units that care for people in pain. It's a network that is run by more than 54,000 local volunteers, not one foreign volunteers, 54,000 local volunteers. And they are looking after each other, they are caring for the neighborhood. There is a neighborhood network that makes sure that the issues when it comes to terminal illness, or when it comes to patients who are critically ill, these are addressed by the community volunteers themselves. So similarly, Compassionate Code, for example, what they do is a beautiful initiative called Hunger Free Calicut. So now this is also there in the long list of World Travel Market Responsible Tourism Award 2016, where anyone, whether you are a traveler or whether you are a poor person, you are a homeless, you are on the street, or if you're a student who lost your wallet or lunchbox, you can just walk into any of the 124 restaurants in Calicut and you can have a meal. No questions asked, So there the whole idea is that just because you are hungry, you should not be, or just because you don't have money, you should not be denied a meal. So this has got a lot of attention now from across the country. So there the whole idea is that the community basically is empowering the community themselves, and they are taking charge. So now this is one model that I've been telling a lot of people who are into voluntourism, that volunteering is now considered by quite a lot of travelers as a cheap opportunity for them to have fantastic holidays in very fantastic locations across the world. And I am not seeing much of a impact that these volunteers are creating in communities. So that is where a model like Compassionate Code, or even a community-based palliative care that is going on in a place like Kerala, literally empowers the local community. So, like, just to give you one example, last World Travel Market, there was a small session on voluntourism, and then I was asking some of the operators from the UK about what is it that they are doing in the volunteering culture, and I was not surprised when I heard one of them telling me that it's not their job. So if these tour operators are involved in volunteering, what happens is they will not have any interest in terms of empowering the local community, because they will be out of their business. So this tour operation, volunteering, empowering local communities, all these things have to be looked from a totally different perspective, especially, from the beautiful example that the Pippi Tours have been sharing with the world for last so many years.
Amazing, thank you. And just because I want to make sure we have some time for the questions, one of the main aims of these webinars, and in fact this year's Wild Asia Responsible Tourism Awards program, is to do much better of clearly communicating best practice tourism enterprises lesson your advice.
Well, as a social enterprise, like, I have only one, one way of functioning, in the sense, this is something that back home in India we call it as a Gandhian talisman. Gandhi has said about how, whenever you are in a crisis, whenever you think you don't know how to take a decision, you think in your community and think about how that particular decision of yours is going to make a difference in her life. So this is exactly what we've been trying to do to our level best, and this is what I would recommend anyone who is entering the social enterprise space to explore, that they use their business as an opportunity to be the change, that they use their business as an opportunity to create better places for people to live. And when that kind of place comes alive, it also by default becomes a place for people to visit, and responsible tourism can be a flag bearer for the destination also.
Well, and for the last initiative you described, I mean, Calicut is not necessarily an obvious for a destination, but certainly through the energy that the campaigns create, making it a better community for its residents, I'm excited to see how it will grow as a tourist destination as well. So thank you for sharing a bit about that.
Thank you.
And yeah, thank you, Gopi. And so, Ayako, we have several really great questions for both Claire and Gopi. So maybe I can hand over to you now.
Yeah, we have a few minutes. So let's maybe let's start with you, Gopi, because there's a question for you about the structure of the Blue Yonder as a for-profit organization and how that works. And I think that's an excellent question following our presenters today. How can a for-profit tourism company work for social good? And that's a complicated question, I understand, but maybe you can share a little bit more on how the Blue Yonder works. How do you make it happen?
Well, it's actually pretty simple in the sense, if you look at how quite a lot of organization functions, they get involved in business, they start making money, and once they start making profit, they share a small percentage of that to not-for-profit initiatives, for which they also get tax deduction. And this is the world famous corporate social responsibility, which I'm not a big fan of. So Blue Yonder was born in a totally different perspective, in the sense we started as a not-for-profit, and within few months we realized that's a stupid way to function, because for us to pursue a dream, we are 100% dependent on someone else. We are dependent on individual donors, we are dependent on NGOs, we are dependent on grants, we are dependent on so many organizations, and where they are basically controlling how we should be dreaming. So we realized that's not the way we like ourselves, and we became a for-profit organization. And then, but lately, we have a foundation, Nila Foundation, which doesn't even have a bank account. So it's basically a paper organization. What happened was that the Blue Yonder kind of started taking over all the work that the foundation was doing, and then the foundation kind of became irrelevant. So maybe this year we are trying to think seriously about setting a not-for-profit, because there are a lot of organizations and people reaching out to us telling, we've got lots of money with us, and that we would like to support you guys. And yeah, so maybe we might set up a not-for-profit so that we could channelize those funds for supporting so many initiatives that's done by someone else.
Great, thanks for sharing. And we have a question for Claire as well, but this might also apply to all of you, Gopi, and also Amy. What do you do, and a question from Amir, what do you do to measure and monitor your social impact?
Yeah, that's a great question, because it's really important in anything that claims to be social to measure impact. So as I was describing before, our model has evolved as we came along. Originally, a same thing that Gopi was talking about. We started out as a non-profit that was really aiming to improve education in Cambodia. And then as we were progressing in that and realised that there was ways in which we could engage travellers in that message, we ended up splitting so that there was separate organisations. So talking from the point of view of the tour operator, the way in which we work is to really channel funds into organisations that we know from living and working in communities that are doing great things and that are really transparent about their own success criteria and how they measure things. So we actually don't do much of that ourselves. What we do is support initiatives that are already working like that. And that includes the Pippi NGO that are fundraising supports. It includes Phase Nepal here in Nepal. That as a travel organisation, we don't see it's necessarily our role to go to another country and to and impact change ourselves. It's more about supporting initiatives that are themselves really good at measuring the impacts that they have. And then what our responsibility is to stay up on the impacts and to stay up on evaluations and also just to continue learning, continue finding amazing initiatives that we hadn't heard of and working out how we can support them, how we can turn it into a tourism product, which is the same as what Gopi was saying.
And
Great.
just to add to that, Gopi has also written a comment in the chat for those of you who haven't seen it, which is linked to both measuring impact, much like Claire was describing, about working with those who already know what they're doing and are already really skilled at it, rather than trying to reinvent the wheel just for the case of positive PR, which many tour operators do, try and set up their own community development projects. And Gopi has written a really great thing, which also answers Amia's latest question about how should private sector travel companies look to develop social impact tours. And his recommendations are to work with really small grassroots operations who are doing it already at a ground level and are really good at that. And those are the kinds of people that could both deliver really impactful social tourism experiences as well as create a really positive social impact on the communities they aim to serve, because they are in fact from those communities.
Great, and thank you so much for all of you for sharing and for questions. And I'm sure there are many more questions for our presenters, but we are running out of time. And so at this point, I will thank our presenters who joined us today for all the lessons and stories that they've shared with us today. And just a couple of reminders before we go. One is for all of you who are watching this now, and for anyone else who have missed it, the session recording is going to be available on our website after this session, so you'll be able to watch it again, revisit, and of course share as well. And I also wanted to share that today's session was part 2 of our partnership initiative working with Wild Asia, our Responsible Tourism Leaders series. Part 3 is actually next week on Thursday, August 11th, and the topic is going to be on how to scale up sustainable tourism sales. I know that this is of interest to all of us and many of you who are watching this now. We are excited to partner with the Travel Foundation and Leeds Beckett Universities in the US in inviting our expert presenter and our friend Peter Richards, who has worked with these organizations to produce a new guidebook called Make It Count that really talks about lessons on how to scale the sales of responsible tourism, sustainable tourism products from across the supply chain of tourism. And this tool itself is an excellent resource for many of you, and we're really excited to have Peter on this session to share lessons from this guide and manual. We also have Christine from Exo Travel and Foundation, who's joining us to share sort of on-the-ground experience and lessons about scaling sustainable tourism product sales. So that's next Thursday, and I hope many of you can rejoin us in 1 week. And with that, thank you again so much, everyone, for joining today, and of course, our presenters for all the lessons that you've shared with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Ayako.